You can dance if you want to, you can leave your friends behind, 'cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no friends of mine. We can go when we want to, a place no one will find. We can act like we come from out of this world, leave the real one far behind. We can dance or sing. We can go when we want to. I've got all your life in mind. We can dress real neat from our head to our feet. Surprise them with a victory cry. We can act if we want to. If we don't, nobody will. You can act real rude and totally removed, and I will act like an imbecile. We can dance, everything's out of control. We can dance, they're doing it from pole to pole. We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to this celebration of life of our dear friend, Bill Scully. And thank you to Bill's family and friends who have all taken time to be here in North Bennington to share this moment. A few housekeeping items. Please silence all your cell phones. There are bathrooms available here. You may know, but they're right in back on this side. There is a guest book to sign up front by the blue umbrellas there. There is light refreshment in back here, and please feel free to get up and move around if you need to stretch your legs or get a drink. There is also a photo here, a lovely photo with Bill, and a place to sign and share a word or two there. That's going to be up, so as you're leaving today, you could just stop by there if you want to do that. Thank you to Ryan Scott and Scuttle Productions for hosting the event live and recording for us. Did I say please silence your cell phones? Okay. And many of you might already know that there is a memorial website for Bill at forevermiss.com/Bill Scully. So this site is going to continue to be available for you to share and remember thoughts there. If you haven't seen it, there's some great stories and pictures up there. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And speaking of stories, Bill specifically asked for an opportunity for those who knew him to come together and share favorite stories and memories. And thank you for being here to make that happen. That's what we're here to do today. There's a number of people that have asked to speak, and I have a list, and I'll call people up to speak here at the podium, or there are some songs that we're going to listen to, I think. But if you haven't checked with me first, please let me know. I will leave a little time, maybe toward the middle of the program, for people that have not checked in beforehand, if you feel moved to say something. I will try to give a gentle reminder at 5 minutes, just because there are so many people that do want to share stories of this great man that we want to make sure to hear them all. So anyway, let's get started. Yeah. So I don't know if this was planned or not, but I did learn the value of Bill's unique brain when I first met him. I got onto the village trustees with Bill a few years after he had been on that in North Bennington here. And upon my arrival, he didn't wait long to ask me the question, "So, John, you're a lawyer?" And I've heard that question before. There's a range of questions that generally follow that prefatory statement. But I was not prepared for, quote, I'd love to talk to you about the Federal Energy Regulation Commission application process for small hydroelectric projects. I think Vermont is really missing an opportunity and we could lobby for change in this area. But as you all know, that was Bill. So I would like to ask, to get started here, some friends from North Bennington. And is Tim Smith here today? Would you be willing to come up and start us off, Tim? Thank you so much.
What's your name?
Oh, sorry. My name's John Lamson.
Well, I'm honored to have been asked to speak today. Maria asked me to say something clever or funny about Bill, and Bill had a very good sense of humor, and he loved to laugh, but he was not really a very funny guy. He was a very serious guy, very, very hardworking, and an absolutely determined guy, not to mention incredibly smart. He was self-taught in everything, and everything that he was involved with, and he was very punctual. I could call him up and say we needed to get together for business or for a glass of wine, and he would agree, and then I might say, great, what day and time? His response was always something like, how about a week from Wednesday at 2:34? I would say, gee, that doesn't work for me. How about 2:37? And he would actually take me seriously. I'm sure any of you who've had dealings with Bill know exactly what I'm talking about. We had a very rewarding time creating and implementing North Bennington Living History, with Maria pretty much calling the shots and keeping Bill and me running around for about 9 years. And we always managed a few laughs and a lot of wine during those periods. I met Bill before he married Maria, when he was just a kid, a sous chef at Cambridge Hotel, honing his self-taught knife skills and doing some pottery and sculpture on the side, and probably tuning up his self-taught courting skills from Maria. I will never forget, he was standing in the corner by Powers Market one day, and he yelled at me. I was going into my office a block away, and he yelled at me down the street. He said, hey, I'm getting married. I'll never forget the smile on his face. It was amazing. And he did marry her. And he went on to create yet another culinary masterpiece with a little help from Maria, the beautiful Kiera Finn. And I'm sure he was on time for both of those events.
She wasn't.
Bill was a good friend, a friend I did not always agree with, but a friend that I respected greatly, and a friend that I could always count on. And I will always miss him.
Thank you. Susan Scorbati?
I really wanted to talk about Bill today because his presence, I believe, was so important that it will continue to inspire us for the rest of our lives. And I think he'd be pleased to know that and to know what an impact he had on so many people. I was fortunate to know Bill as a colleague, Bennington College, a teacher. We co-taught the course that John just spoke about on the hydropower project, a student, an administrator, an entrepreneur, and most importantly, a friend. He was truly, truly a remarkable person. His curiosity, passion, and commitment for the things that he cared about, one, dealing with climate change way before most people were actually trying to figure out how to find real solutions to renewable energy. His amazing work with students, we got literally because of Bill and his guidance and his work with students. He taught them how to fill out as a Federal Energy Regulatory Commission application, which was no exaggeration, this thick. And most civil engineers and water managers have a hard time filling this application out. And students, he got them all organized, and they did a design plan for a hydropower project, and it was approved by FERC. I think we all know he oversaw the dining hall for Bennington College, an incredible administrator, had a lot of people working for him. He created the hot spot that we all know, Pangea Restaurant and Lounge in North Bennington, where everybody hung out. And he did this Pangea project, which I don't know if a lot of people are aware of, for when we were working with youth at risk of dropping out of school at the high school and the middle school. Bill organized several after-school workshops that happened on Saturdays in people's kitchens in North Bennington to teach these students how to cook a full course meal from appetizer to dessert. And then they cooked the meal for their families and for people in the town of Bennington and North Bennington at the Pangea restaurant. And there were, I think he did this 3 or 4 times, and I think there were up to like 50 or 60 people at the dinners. And they were all cooked, prepared, cut vegetables, etc., by these young 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. It was an incredible project that I still hear from them about how transformative that was for them. So not only, this is just, and also we know about the village trustees and the Bennington Select Board and the kind of commitment he had to community work. He truly wanted to make the world a better place, and he did it. He really did it. So he accomplished so much in his shortened life, and that's really something we can all pay attention to and be inspired by. But more than anything, and just to close, I wanted to share my thoughts about his presence as a human being, as a friend, a teacher, a father, a husband, and as a member of our community. I think we could say that we really loved Bill. I always looked forward to seeing him and we would have more than hour-long conversations about everything and anything. Anything particularly that was happening in the world and what he was caring about, and also always thinking about what can we do about it and how can we come up with some way to have a project to make it work. I was always interested in what he was thinking about, his creative mind, his caring, his passion, and his commitment. So Bill, I'd love to just say to you and your family that we loved you. We miss you. You made us better people, and I will always be grateful that you were in my life and for the amazing life you led as an example for all of us.
Brian Campion.
Thank you, John. I've been thinking a lot about Bill this past week, in part because of today's celebration, as I've been contemplating what about my friend I would say. But Bill has also been on my mind because of the rain. Rain has fallen here like we haven't seen in some time, and water sometimes makes me think of Bill. How can it not? Bill worked to improve one of Vermont's most historic waterways by organizing volunteers to join him in spending countless hours pulling tires and trash out of the Walloomsac River. He made certain that any uses he advanced in the creation of hydropower would also improve the water for wildlife. Bill worked to harness the energy of water to provide us all with clean energy, which would reduce our need for fossil fuels. Paradoxically, the water that has been falling in such great quantities and causing me to think of Bill is because of our abuse of the environment. Our lifestyles, which require immense amount of fossil fuels, have altered our world. Bill knew this. He knew this, and he knew what was at stake and put his efforts into a project that would help protect our future. Bill, like the water he was trying to harness the power of, was a force. He had a force of intellect and drive to get something done, to move things forward, to make a difference in our community. And this force touched many lives in our community, and our community is better for it. For those here that know Bennington College will understand what I mean when I say that Bill epitomized the Bennington alumnus, a chef, a politician, and a scientist. He grabbed what the world offered, and through his actions, he taught us that we can all do the same. That we needn't nor should we be one thing. That our jobs may be nursing, cleaning, educating, fixing, creating, but we are all citizens that must give back. I came across Philip Larkin's poem the other day on creating a religion out of water. And from time to time, Bill and I did talk about religion. And although I'm left without details of those conversations, I have a feeling he would like Larkin's words about how water brings us all together. It nourishes us. It has energy to help preserve our natural world. I took the liberty of editing Larkin's words only so slightly today in honor of Bill. Larkin wrote, "If Bill were called in to construct a religion, he should make use of water. Going to church would entail a fording. His liturgy would employ images of soaking, a furious, devout drench. And if he should raise in the east a glass of water, where at any angled light would congregate endlessly. Today we congregate for Bill, and he would like that. But Bill would also want us to congregate in ways that would make a difference, that will make a difference in the world. Bill would tell us to look in our own towns, communities, and yards for things we can improve. And so as the rains fall, as we drink or swim or canoe or fish, or we raise that glass of water, let us think of what Bill started. Let us look at our windows, take the torch that Bill has passed to all of us, and make this a better world." Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Tyler Resch.
First, I want to say what a tremendous turnout this is for a really terrific guy. I have a little story to tell. Maybe I'll keep it a little short, but I have a story. I remember my first conversation, my first of many conversations with Bill Scully, took place about 4 years ago. We were at a memorial service like this for another great son of North Bennington, George Elwell's service outdoors. And I got into a conversation with Bill. I think Rob Wilmington's with me, and we talked about hydroelectric power. And I said, Bill, how much do you know about the great hydroelectric system in southern Vermont here, the Deerfield Valley system? And he's a little curious about that. He really didn't know. So here I am offering advice to Bill Scully about hydroelectric something or other. And I do. My expertise about the Deerfield Valley hydro system is largely recreational. I've done swimming, canoeing. I even skied across Somerset Lake one winter. And we have a camp nearby, which is on the western watershed of the Harriman Reservoir. And also, journalistically, I wrote an article about it for Vermont Life. So Bill got his curiosity going, and forward a couple of days, and Bill calls me up and says, I said, I'll offer to give you a guided tour over there if you'd like. And so when Bill called me up the next couple of days, he said, Tyler, I'll take you up on that tour. So we found an appointed time, and Bill drove, and I rode shotgun, and Maria and Kira were in the back seat. And so we headed over to Wilmington, and went up to the Somerset Reservoir, and then down to Whitingham, and saw the Harriman Dam and the Glory Hole. And then we went around to Reedsboro and saw the powerhouse where the water comes down from a 2.5 mile tunnel. So that was fun. That was great. But then a couple days later, Bill calls up and said, "Tyler, how about let's continue the conversation? How about coffee? We'll have coffee at the South Streets Cafe. It was at that time." So we did that, and somehow we got into a habit, a wonderful habit, very, very generous of him. He and I had coffee at Powers Market for almost every Friday morning for the last couple of years. And it was a tremendous experience for me, certainly. I'm certainly grateful to him for all that time. We seemed to have something to say to each other, which was really, really wonderful. Great conversationalist, and of course, a tremendous guy. I'm so impressed to see this incredible turnout for such a wonderful, valuable person.
Bruce Lee Clark, please.
I'm something of a Johnny-come-lately to Bill and his breadth of knowledge. We met together at the Brown Cow for coffee and conversation at the behest of John when we were setting out on what would turn out to be his successful run for the select board and my unsuccessful run for the select board. It was fine. I still remember the 4 votes, and whoever you are, I will. So when we met there, I knew almost immediately that I had met one of those unique people that you don't meet every day in your life. I discovered almost immediately that he had an incredible curiosity about almost everything I could think of. In fact, I made it a point to try to come up with something that he was not interested in, and I was totally unsuccessful in our many gatherings. In fact, John, I was glad to hear that you were not the only person to whom he asked, "Oh, you're a lawyer?" I had been forewarned, and I said, "I know absolutely nothing about FERC." And then he said, "But what do you know about pretrial detentions here in Vermont?" And I said, "Apparently not as much as I should." So his curiosity was endless. He also, I sort of break these things down in a variety of different ways, but he had eyes to look at a problem in a way that was revealing and would be analytical and yet would be receptive to all kinds of new ideas. In a way, I thought he was able to approach people exactly that way, and that's what made him a really wonderful politician to work with. As for his speaking, I can recall specifically one particular campaign event where you get grilled by somebody, and somebody had the temerity to ask him about alternative energy. To which at that point, I was sitting next to him and you could see, I could feel him almost immediately relax, and out it came. It was essentially his dissertation. And he hit that one right out of the park. I said, my God, if you're not elected after that, I think Bennington is in real trouble. And God knows he came in first. He had a heart. And so he held his ideas not just as interesting thoughts, but rather he was passionate about it. And I loved him for the passion. He and I did not always agree, although often. I learned a ton. But he knew what he wanted to bring to the job of being on the select board. He and I had coffee a number of times after that, after his election and before my selection. We are, it seems to me, impoverished by his loss, but we are strengthened by his presence. There isn't a day that goes by, there isn't a meeting of that select board that doesn't go by when I don't hear his voice. And for that, I thank you, Bill.
Make sure I can see the paper here. Ken Moriarty, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ken Moriarty, and I am the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Hildene, which is the Lincoln family home in Manchester, Vermont. I'd first of all like to extend our continuing condolences to Bill's wife and daughter. We continue to mourn with you, and I mean that. Why Hildene? Why am I here today? Just a little bit of context. Hildene exists to carry the values of Abraham Lincoln to future generations by educating and inspiring to live the values of Abraham Lincoln. From that, we derive Hildene's mission. Very simple: values into action. We have 3 Lincoln values that drive us in everything we do: integrity, perseverance, and civic responsibility. Think of those 3 words, and who comes to mind? Bill Scully. You could take anything Bill said to you, and you could take it to the bank because you trusted Bill. Perseverance. The things that this man accomplished took an awful lot of energy, an awful lot of work, and he always did it. Civic responsibility. We've just heard this afternoon about civic responsibility and how Bill lived this. Not because he was trying to get something out of it, but because it was important. It was important to him, and it was important to the people Bill knew and the people Bill loved. I just heard 2 things here this afternoon. John called Bill a great man. Somebody else said that Bill worked things through. He made it his business to work things through. And another thing I heard, he was self-taught. There was another person who embodied that, and you can guess who that was: Abraham Lincoln. Self-taught, worked hard, saw things through. Bill lived values into action. Last week, there was a wonderful article written about Bill Scully by Tyler Resch. And as I read that article and I thought about what we might like to remember about Bill here this afternoon, What did Bill do? Something piqued his interest. He learned everything he could about it, but then he thought about it and he made it his own. And then, as Tyler said, Bill wrote it down so that it could be communicated to all of us. And that's how he made great things happen. We live in an age where people talk the talk all the time. Bill Scully was one of those rare people who walk the talk. We're glad we knew him at Haldane. He helped us on very mundane things, how to bring food service to Haldane. That translated into the Pangea organization, being Haldane's exclusive food service provider. Yes, it was mundane, but it was important to us, and Bill helped us to crack that code. And we always thank him for it. Bill, we miss you. We wish you Godspeed, and we're glad that you are a friend to Haldane. Thank you.
Aaron McKinney? Thanks, Aaron.
I feel fortunate that I got to work with and witness Bill in several different settings over the years. At Bennington College, as trustees in the village of North Bennington, and spending time with our daughters who happen to be the same age. In all of these places and spaces, Bill stood out as a dynamo, an innovator, and a doer. Someone who you knew would make things happen. He glowed with enthusiasm about everything he was involved with. The first place I met Bill was at the college, where he had been a student, but also managed dining services for many years. As Brian said earlier, Bill epitomized a Bennington College student. He was passionate about the things he loved, thought outside the box, and always found new ways to do things. And boy, the food was good. I worked in the president's office during that time, and whenever there were big meetings in the conference room next to our office, the meeting couldn't clear fast enough. We'd feast on any leftovers, feeling like we had just landed at a gourmet deli or restaurant in some city. It made our day better and brighter to eat so well. And I know folks who visited Powers or Pangea over the years felt the same. Years later, when Bill was working on new projects, I decided to run for a trustee position in the village of North Bennington. Bill was incredibly encouraging and so generous as I assumed my new role. To figure out where I would fit in, I decided to meet with a few of the trustees. I was blown away by how much Bill knew about all the village things, vehicles and roads and ordinances. But what really surprised me was how much he knew about the history of North Bennington. His love and admiration and understanding of this beautiful village was infectious. The other role we shared, the best one of all, was as parents. Seeing Bill as a doting dad was a delight. His love and adoration of Kira was special. And when I first heard Kira, after swim practice in the back of my car, talking so animatedly and intelligently about Komodo dragons, I knew that the apple had not fallen far from the tree. Bill and Maria have raised an incredible, curious, and confident daughter. And Maria, you astonish me with your strength and fortitude and optimism. Bill was lucky to have a partner with your incredible gifts. It seems fitting that Bill was interested in making things go, whether it was fueling people with wonderful food or powering through alternative and green energy sources, because of his innovative thinking, but more importantly, because he was such a powerhouse himself. He energized so many people and projects. I see that as one of his greatest gifts, his superpower. Just knowing Bill was here gave people a sense of possibility and hope. His belief in things, his dogged determination, and passion for tackling any project he threw himself into inspired people. Bill was a visionary. His presence made people feel hopeful and energized, and I miss Bill and all that he was and meant for our village and our community. His enthusiasm was unrivaled, and I know his work and legacy will be appreciated for years to come in North Bennington, our region, and beyond. Thank you.
Okay. I just have a couple things that the family has asked me to read here. Aunt Cynthia Scully would ask me to read this statement on her behalf. Bill Scully was a wonderfully bright, funny, happy person. He was also quite astute. On his own, he researched and learned all he could on a subject to place him ahead of the curve. This included business and legal issues as well as everyday activities in his life. When Bill was very young, 3 or 4, he visited me at my home in San Francisco. He would stand in front of a mirror and tell himself emphatically, "Get to work." I'm not sure what he was working on at that time, but whatever it was, it must have paid off for his future work as he was successful in the endeavors that he chose. She says she will miss Bill and their one-on-one conversations. Thank you, Aunt Cynthia. Now, the other item that I was asked to read is a poem. And this poem can be a little on the nose for a funeral, but I was so pleased to have this book presented to me to read from, because this is a favorite poem of Bill's. And this was his poetry book when I believe it was 8th grade or thereabouts. And he actually wrote this poem in here. So, I think it's great to listen to the words, but also just to think about Bill liking this poem and enjoying this poem, and we can all enjoy it together. This is Walt Whitman's "O Captain, My Captain." O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack, the prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while fellow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grum and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribboned wreaths, for you the shores are crowding. For you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear Father, the arm beneath your head. It is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse or will. The ship is anchored safe and sound to its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes home with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. The next, we'd like to have the representative from the Cambridge Valley Cycling Club come up, and this would be Mike Briggs. And I'll let him describe the connection between Bill and the cycling club. And you'd never guess that he was a member of the cycling club.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Briggs, and as said, I represent Cambridge Valley Cycling. But I first met Bill back when my wife and I moved into the area back in May of 2002, and being amateur But enthusiastic foodies, we quickly found Pangea and enjoyed wonderful meals there with family and friends. It was at Pangea that we first met Bill when he came out from the kitchen and introduced himself. I worked at Williams College as a project manager and worked closely with Williams Dining Services staff renovating their kitchens and dining halls. And through that, I became good friends with Alex Da Silva, who was our director of dining services, who hailed from Brazil, and he was a true and professional connoisseur of dining and had eaten at some of the best restaurants around the world. When Alex decided to move on, we took him to Pangea for a going-away party. As we sampled our way through Pangea's menu, and I remember this as though it were yesterday, I remember Alex stopping sort of mid-bite, savoring whatever delicacy he had in his mouth, and saying, "This guy really knows what he is doing." And he said, "This is some of the best food I've tasted anywhere in the world." This confirmed for me that we were blessed with an extraordinary culinary talent right here in our tiny village of North Bennington. I continued to run into Bill at Pangea and as he took on dining at Bennington College amongst his other enterprises. Skipping ahead several years, in 2019, Bill joined Cambridge Valley Cycling Club, of which I'm a member. Bill first showed up for a ride on a nondescript bike and carrying a little extra weight, as some of us tend to do. However, Bill quickly took on cycling as, it seems, he took on almost everything in life. That is, with vision, determination, and a certain ferocity. Bill shed those extra pounds quickly and became one of our strongest cyclists, adding a beautiful Bianchi bike to his quiver of tools. Not content to just ride, he began entering races and epic organized rides, including century rides, the Tour of the Battenkill, the Tour de Cuca, and the race up Akimo Mountain. It's easy to imagine that Bill would have become a giant in the regional cycling community had he only had more time. We at CVC were fortunate to get to know Bill, if only briefly. We will miss his kindness, his intelligence, his determination, and his good company. Bill, Maria, and Kiara will always have a special place in our hearts. Thank you.
So at this time, we'd like to share a little music with everybody. And we have several talented folks that have volunteered to help us out with that. How about Greg Van Houten? Would you like to share some words? Yeah, perfect.
Hi, I'm Greg Van Houten. Marie offered for me to sing, but I couldn't think of the right song. But I thought of a story that I thought was more appropriate. I worked for Bill and Maria 15 years ago at Pangea, and I thought it would be a good idea, with everyone telling us what we think of Bill Scully, to tell you what Bill Scully thought about you guys. A little preface, I had just bought a house. I had just started my company, GVH Studio. I didn't have 40 hours of work a week. I had a roommate who was a proven flight risk, and I needed some extra cash. And I ran into Jason Fleming at Kevin's, and I asked him his opinion on getting a side job tending bar, and his response is, "You want to tend bar? You can work Sunday and Monday at Pangea." That was it. So that was the interview process. I came down the next day to meet with Bill, and the interview process was the same. So I was a Sunday, Monday bartender, and I got to know many of you through that role initially. Before I knew you through my company, before I was on the Bennington Select Board, before all of these things, I got to know you guys at Pangea. And somebody get Tom a Peroni, but anyway. So, I mean, it was crazy. And some of the people I worked with, I knew nothing about restauranting, from the working end, but I worked with a young woman named Anna Sturgis, who was brilliant and taught me everything Pangea that I needed to know, and now is married to Jeff Close and owns Allegro, downtown Bennington. I worked with a very young chef. If most of you probably wouldn't have believed that your head chef on Sunday and Monday was a 23-year-old fellow named Nick DeSorda, who now owns Pangea with his wife, Lonnie. Bill Scully did not build things so that they would fail. And he built lives and communities around himself, which was really impressive and in retrospect. But Bill shared with me an idea once that I had to keep to myself until today because he really wanted to do it. And he was trying to figure out how to turn North Bennington into a theme park where people, and he would say, like, imagine people like who live on 34th Street coming into North Bennington and stopping, staying at the Eddington House and walking down to Powers and getting coffee and coming back the next day and they know their names, right? And you go to the bar at Pangea and they recognize you from the night before. It's like, that's gonna blow people away. He was like, I don't know how to market that without everybody changing it because they can't really know, but because they'll just do it. And it occurred to him, it's like, Bill Scully thinks he lives in a theme park. Like, he thinks this is Scullywood, this is like, and it was just, I never saw a guy who was so content in where he lived and everybody and what was around him. And I was so happy to be part of Scullywood. And thank you so much. I love you guys, right?
Thank you, Greg. Najem Rahim, is it here today? Nejem.
Hey y'all, my name is Nejim. I went to college with Bill, but really got to know him later. And I was talking with Maria about today. Normally I talk at these things, but I'm not going to talk. I'm going to play 2 tunes. Just like you were saying, it's kind of hard to choose what to play, but I'm going to play 2 tunes from Mali that I've been working on. Hopefully they'll work. One of them, I'm going to play them sort of together. The first one is by Boubacar Traoré, and it's called Adje Piamat. And forgive my total plunge into being on the nose, but he wrote it when his wife died, and he loved her very much. And I'm not going to sing the words because I'm not fluent in whatever that language is. Then the next one is called Aye Faji by a guy named, whose name I'm forgetting because I've got some nerves at the moment. But Aye Faji translates into English as nostalgia. So, sorry, 2 sad West African tunes for you. So this guy, okay, sorry, just 1 second. So there's some problems when you get to know Bill Scully. And, like, it struck me over the years of getting to know him kind of laterally that, like, he reduces your tolerance for half measures. And it's kind of a curse. So I'm setting myself up as like a third-rate, sloppy thing for that, but still.
Bonnie DeSorda.
So the first time that I ever really engaged with Bill in a non-professional manner, he enlisted me to best an employee of his in a prank war. While I was also working for that employee, which ended up in us ruining $500 worth of drums. And then that employee ended up marrying me. So Bill had a habit of bringing people together and in maybe not so orthodox ways, and this is for that goofy side of Bill. A song by Men Without Hats. You can dance if you want to, you can leave your friends behind, 'cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no friends of mine. We can go when we want to, a place no one will find. We can act like we come from out of this world, leave the real one far behind. We can dance or sing. We can go when we want to. We can go when we want to. I've got all your life in mind. We can dress real neat from our hat to our feet. Surprise them with a victory cry. We can act if we want to. If we don't, nobody will. You can act real rude and totally removed, and I will act like an imbecile. We can dance, everything's out of control. We can dance, they're doing it from pole to pole. We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody take that chance. It's safe to dance, it's safe to dance, it's safe to dance, yeah, it's safe to dance. We can dance if we want to, we've got all your life in mind. As long as we abuse it, we're never gonna lose it, and everything will work out right. We can dance if we want to, we can leave your friends behind, 'cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no friends of mine. We can dance, everything's out of control. We can dance, we're doing it from pole to pole. We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody take that chance. It's safe to dance, it's safe to dance. Come on, take that chance. It's safe to dance. Go and take my hand. It's safe to dance. It's safe to dance. You can take that chance. It's safe to dance. It's safe to dance. It's safe to dance. It's safe to dance. You can take that chance.
Anthony Kafritz. You here. Anthony Kafritz.
I've
thought a lot about this, about Bill, and Maria was nice enough to ask me to speak about a month ago. And I realized that I really needed time to think this through. So the thing about Bill is that he was an absolute true friend, someone you could really believe in. And I know a lot of you have touched on this, and a lot of things I say, I'm going to say it in my own words, but this is from the heart. He was a true polymath, and that was brought up too. He was good at anything he worked at, anything he did, and he was abundantly curious about anything. He was agile, pliant, without bias, but with conviction. He was also very, very much of a passionate friend, and we had a really good time together. We used to work very hard together at all sorts of different kinds of jobs. And when he met Maria, it was a true collaboration. And I saw both their lives really blossom equally and synergistically, that they worked together very well, and they evolved and they developed many different kinds of businesses, but also had a beautiful daughter. They created a beautiful quality of life. Now with Carbon Zero is a perfect example of what Bill and Maria worked together to do. And in a pinch or an idea, that's something that could have been adopted nationally, but through the state first, where every municipality could own their own power through a bond. So to make electric vehicles without being, as someone else said, predicated on fossil fuels or nuclear. So every large or small town could actually own their own power. It would change everything in this country. And it would alleviate and emancipate every individual given their per capita income. It would change everything culturally. So one thing I just wanted to talk about was a few things, just one story, and then I'll conclude. We used to work for a sculptor, Mia Westland. I don't know if she was able to come today, but we did a survey show at a large sculpture park. We worked for her for many years, and we put a lot of sculptures into this large 500-acre sculpture park. And it was interesting for both of us that we did this huge trench, and Ned Mooney is here. We went to visit it in a blizzard, and in a rear-wheel drive truck, we drove in the blizzard all the way to the site, which was about a mile away from the road. And I thought I could do it given the traction. And Bill and I were looking at each other like, I think so. And we got there. And we needed to figure the rake of the hill. And we got it down because we had to put a fence around this long trench. And it was about liability. So we got the perfect angle. But during the summer when we built that trench, one day Mia came over and said, boys, you have to build this trench. You have to extend this. It was a 70-foot trench, 65-foot trench, 68-foot trench. You have to extend it by 8 feet by 6 feet wide by 8 feet down. And I said, well, look, there's an excavator, John Deere, over there. There's a backhoe over there. I said, no, they're not going to help us. You're going to have to do it by hand. And I said, well, Mia, what do we have? He goes, you have a day. So we worked. And Bill and I looked at each other. We both had a gallon of water. And we had 2 cups of coffee with an extra, obviously. And we worked at it with pickaxes and shovels. And then eventually Bill was on the top, and I was handing him stones that were worn by the glacier. They were beautiful. And they looked like Noguchi sculptures. They looked like Kiki Smith cast glass red cell globules. They're beautiful, worn, elemental. But each one weighed 80 to 120 pounds, so I had to push them out of the ditch to build, and he'd catch them. And we did it, and the walls were tight. And at the end of the time, and we were just grabbing sandwiches anywhere we could at convenience stores, coffee here, coffee there, anything we could eat or get our hands on that was wrapped in a microwave, whatever. But we looked at Pangea in the town nearby, and we said, you know, once we get paid, we're going to go not to Pangea, to Ponderosa. Big difference. And big difference. And we said, oh my God, $20 all you can eat. Oh, we're going to eat the buffet. We're going to warn them before we go in. We're going to say we're going to eat all this. So we got there 20 minutes early, and Mia was very good to us. She paid us well, but also she's a great sculptor, great artist, but also she really treated us well. And she paid us very well, and we were exhausted. We filled the truck up with tools. We went to Ponderosa 20 minutes before it opened, and we opened the doors open. We run in. We're like, oh my God, we can eat so much. And we go there, and there's a lady. I remember she had black hair and she had bangs, like she was from Paris, like this. And we paid the money. We're like, oh my God, we're the only ones here. And we just loaded these plates of food and everything you can imagine. We sit down, and Bill and I were not, at the time, Bill wasn't, and I'm not, and I don't think he was either now, is that we weren't very picky at what we ate. So we looked at our chicken. We couldn't cut it with a knife. We couldn't cut anything. Everything was cooked like 8 times. And we're like, and it was like, beyond like baby food, like mush, but this is mush times cubed, And we're like, man, we can't eat this. We're just staring and feeling embarrassed. We can't eat this food because we felt that it was a sin, both of us. And the lady that sat us, she said, look, I'm gonna give you your money back. I wouldn't even feed this food to my children. And me and Bill were like, oh, thanks. Well, let's give you a tip. And he goes, no, don't give me a tip. Just leave. So we went across the street to the pizza place, some of the best pizza I've ever had in New York State. We both ate 2 huge pies before we got on the road. Now, I'm gonna finish this off by one thing Bill and I did, is we both evolved and got busy, and knowing, as Bill is a polymath to all of you, knowing that he was so good at so many things he did, and anything he tried to do that was new, he championed. Then he understood relativeness, the dimensionalized relationship everything had to itself, so that made him more effective in many things people brought up. It was at the political arm, the way he imbued his family with love, the way he was a good leader, the way he could think as an innovator, all these things. And he mastered everything with great humility, but voraciously searching for new knowledge. So when Bill and I would get together for a year or there, we would always hang out for 15 to 20 hours. And we'd have a couple of fermented hops. And we'd sit there and we'd talk rapid fire, because he was so quick and we could just hear nuance and subtlety. Nothing had to be repeated. And we would just go. And we'd talk about everything. Nothing was off topic. Everything was absolutely confidential. And it was pretty much like this. Hey, Bill, man, I did this. What do you think? Would you have done the same thing? Anthony, what do you think? Would you have done the same thing? And it really helped us both out to recalibrate both of ourselves, given what we were doing. And the next morning we'd get up, and then it was both Bill and I would say, wait a minute, you didn't expand on that. Bill, what did you say? Wait, all that, it didn't make sense. Let's go back to it. He goes, oh, right. And on those talks, so one of the last talks we had, given carbon zero, and given everything else he did, and also the collaboration with Maria, that I really thought he could have been governor of the state. And I said, I'd give you 5 to 10 years. And I won't use the superlative, we're in mixed company. He said, you. And then then he meant it. And then the next morning he said, Anthony, you're right. I want you to know that I'm like all of you. I can't speak for you, but in this room, I feel the same thing, this empathy that I really miss a lot. And he really was a real true friend. Thank you so much for listening to my words.
Is Amanda Spooner-Eppers here? Great. Thank you.
I'm Amanda Spooner-Eppers, class of '92 from Bennington College. Bill, upon first seeing you, first impressions took over. Combat boots, egg white spiked mohawk, and your sidekick, Jason. You guys scared the shit out of me. The preppy blonde from Canfield had finally met her antithesis. Little did I know that you and Jason were both pussycats. You just had a penchant for leather and goth music. Fast forward 20 years, you and Maria have taken over North B, created a high-end restaurant, and a college-friendly sidekick. and Maria jump-started the day with Powers Market. Over the years, I'd come up with friends and then family to visit the old alma mater. On the road, I'd always call Pangea and say, "Tell Bill, Spooner's coming in." At 11 p.m. on the dot, Bill would come over from the fancy side with a beer in hand and a huge bear hug for me. Sorry. Sometimes, if I was lucky, Maria would pop in from downstairs, from upstairs at the apartment to say hello. Sometimes. Over the years, Bill fed us, plied us with booze, made us laugh, harnessed the water to power his town. He was our mayor, and he was excellent at all of it, always. He was also an incredible father to Kira, a wonderfully loving husband to Maria, and he was genuinely the best friend we all had. Bill is missed and will continue to be missed. Thank you.
Sal Rendino, would you like to say something, or either of the Rendinos would be fine?
Sylvia.
Sylvia? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Bill's sister-in-law, married to one of Maria's brothers. To those of you that don't know Maria's family, the Rendinos, well, these people are a lovely bunch of brainiacs. There's not too much that they do not know, which personally can be intimidating. And if they don't know something, they have curious minds. That's a word we've certainly heard a lot today. Curious minds and spirit, and will search for answers. Perhaps that had something to do with Maria's attraction to Bill. He had the same curious spirit. Many holiday get-togethers, he would be hard at work, so his time with us was limited. Never did I imagine how really limited it would become. There were times post-Pangea when some of the family went on walks and Bill would join us that I remember the most. I love to, we talked about all sorts of things. I love to ask him cooking questions, as he had great tricks and advice, and no matter what the topic, he knew something about it. I had no idea how much of a brainiac he truly was, and I mean that with great love and respect. And I learned when he began the hydropower plant that his mind was so expansive. I had no idea really until that point. But my goodness, what a gigantic feat to have taken on. I couldn't even imagine how to begin. When he would speak about the plant, his face just lit up, and quite frankly, I would just try to keep up with what it is he was talking about. In his passing, I learned more about Bill and the rest of the hobbies and interests and accomplishments that filled his life. I have been truly astonished by it all. Although his time here was short, the life he lived was so full. He did what others dream to do in a lifetime. I will remember Bill as someone that was always curious about what was going on with me, about what I had to say. It seemed to matter to him, and I'm always grateful that he took the time to ask. I am certain most everyone here feels the same way. I think so much mattered to him, and he took it all in with that great, curious spirit until the very end.
Okay, so at this time, if there are those of you who'd like to say a few words that were not, are already prepared, we'd welcome you to come up and share something before we conclude and hear from our last couple of speakers. I have you, sir. I don't want to have you go before some others if others have something to say. But yes, please. Yeah, come on up. That's what. Since we are recording, it's better if we use the microphone. So
I can do that.
thank you so much.
But you can tell I don't always need a microphone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susie. I was known as X at Bennington. Had nothing to do with the drug or Malcolm. It's a long story, which I will not tell. I'm going to keep it really short. I'm so happy to be here for Bill, for his family. And I want to say that what I admired most about Bill was he showed up. He showed up for his community. He showed up for his family. And he showed up for his friends. And I was lucky to be one. Last night I was staying with some friends who are on the other side of Bennington, and I had connected Bill with them because I thought they had a lot in common. There was a food connection. They made a nice connection, but then, one of their kids was having a hard time, teenager, things not, gelling the way they'd hoped. And Bill and Maria gave him a job. And Bill said to him, "Oh, come on." At the time, he hadn't graduated from Bennington. "I didn't even get my undergraduate degree, and look at me." He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. It's many years later, I can report he's fine. And he's a chef. I was gonna come here and just kind of duct tape a Bluetooth speaker to my butt and blast some of Bill's favorite tunes and do a dance, but then I realized Bill would appreciate that. Not sure you guys would. And I like to hear him laugh, and that's something I really miss. So losing someone is really hard. Losing someone during a pandemic when we couldn't see each other is very unreal. And I am so glad. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Kira, for making this space where we can honor Bill. Thank you very much.
Hello, excuse me. My name is Kate McPhee, and I was at Bennington College at the same time as Bill. And I didn't know him all that well then, but we were pals. He was always hanging around Vapa, where I was, and we knew each other at parties and fairly casually. But years later, when I had moved back to Denver, where I'm from, and Bill was living here, we were friends on Facebook. And one night, insomniac Facebook scrolling, I noticed Bill had commented on a picture of my cat. And it was a sweet comment about my cat. And I commented back, and we ended up chatting at like 3 a.m. on Facebook about our cats. And I was so impressed by that this goth guy who seemed too cool for anything loved cats. And he went on to tell me the names of his cats and different anecdotes about them. And I was so touched by that. And then when I decided to move back to the area, I, of course, thought of Bill to ask all my questions. Where should I live? Where should I work? All of that. He was never too busy with all his 80 hours a week working and his million projects. He was never too busy to return a call or be there for me. And I'm so honored to know that I wasn't the only one he made time to have coffee with at Powers Market, which we did several times, with me asking him questions about business and about this, that, and the other, and him asking me about, I have a daughter. We live up in East Dorset, and my daughter went to Burton, and he wanted to know about that, thinking ahead for his daughter. And I'm just so sad that he's gone, but so lucky, feel so lucky to have known him, and all of what everybody else said, I recognized immediately in him. And so thank you, and I'm so sorry that he's not here with us anymore.
Hello. My name's Barry Mayer. I knew Bill just briefly on a few occasions, but I wanted to share something that I thought nobody's said so far tonight, and so many this afternoon, so many other grand things have been said about Bill that, now I know, and I always knew, I wished I'd known him better. But one cold evening, I had my truck down at, what's that place across the street from the mill? Big Boys Toys. So I'm sitting there waiting for something to be done. It was a winter and it was like 4:30 in the afternoon. It was dark. And I look across the street, across 67, and there's some guy working on this diesel tractor. So I said, who's that over there? I asked the guy at the desk. He said, oh, that's Bill. I said, that's Bill. What's he doing there? He says, he's trying to fix up that tractor. So he and I had talked about a symposium sometime. I represented Trout Unlimited, who are not in favor of dams generally. And Bill obviously knew better. And I thought we should have a symposium in the community. And he being on one side, and we getting people with the other view, and I thought it would be fruitful. Well, sadly, it never came to be. But I walked over, and there he was, just greased up like there was some guy working with him. It was colder than it was cold. And he's there, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, I sold this tractor to a guy, and he's coming to pick it up tomorrow, and I can't get it started. And I said, well, what the hell do you know about tractors? He said, I grew up on a farm. I didn't know that. Did he really grow up on a farm in California?
It was an acre and a third of avocado trees that had a Gravely garden tractor.
Well, see, so I guess what little he learned there, he was trying to apply here. But I just wanted people to know that was another side of it. Like so many people have said, if he had a challenge, he met it, he took it on full force. And I don't know, because I had to leave before he got the thing started.
He did, sure did.
Anyone else like to be recognized? Okay.
Hi, my name's Penny. I didn't really know Bill that well, but I do remember that he had a great sense of humor and a great laugh after he told the jokes to me. And whenever I went over to Kier's house, I would always say hello to him, and then we would go up to her room and just play. It was always fun to go over to her house, and I remember that he was always very nice to me, even when I was acting pretty. He would always be nice about it. And I'm really happy to be here.
Jim Scully. Thank you.
Just a few words. I had to start out with Bill. And if you think that wasn't a trial to go through, Bill was quite a character. And his sister, Jan, his mom, Diana. And we stayed together for 10 or 12 years and then separated.
And this is my current wife, Carol. Hard to keep up with Bill. Most of the things he did, I did not understand. I'll just tell you that right up front. No getting away from it. It's not funny, Tim. And then Carol and Tam and I and Bill went to a symposium for colleges. Where could Bill go to school? Where could Tam go to school? And we thought, send him out of the state, get him across the country. It would be easier on us. And Bill ended up at Bennington. He was here for several years, and then he came back to California. And he did some work in California, and I'd given him a truck, and he came out with that truck to Bennington. And he called me and he said, Dad, I'm going back home. And you remember John Denver had a song, Rocky Mountain High. And I think it starts out was, he was born in the summer of his 22nd year, coming home to a place he'd never been before. That's how it starts. That's what happened to Bill. And there's little things that happen in between. And I remember I got a call from him and he said, Dad, Maria and I are living someplace, I don't know where, in New York State. It's 2 miles unpaved road, and you got to have this 4-wheel drive to get up there. And it's really hard because there's a heater that's a wood-fired oil heater, burner, hot water heater, something like that. And he said, you got to trudge 150 feet up the hill to keep the wood in the burner so that the house can stay warm. And I don't understand this house. I said, what's the matter? And he said, it seems to be a great house, but the windows are always fogged up. And I said, Bill, it's Maria. and then the one word that you've always heard, oh, really? Yeah, that's good. Anyway, that whole thing evolved very, very well. And I'm exceptionally proud of Bill and my family. Couldn't be prouder. And one of the things that maybe gets overlooked is he spent almost the first half of his life in California. Not a fertile soil. He came to Bennington, and now you people, I believe, all of you here and all of his friends, are responsible for what he turned into. It could not be any other event. If he had stayed in California, he wouldn't have blossomed. He landed in this wonderful little community and was happy doing what he's doing. Forget about all of the other accolades that come down. He was truly happy. And you are responsible for that. You are also, all of you, and all of your friends and associates, you have a specific task, and that's to carry on that same feeling that you engendered in Bill. There's no other way you can say it. You do that, and you will have equally, maybe not equally, but somewhat productive people in your community, and this is a wonderful community, and I thank you for the reception that you gave Bill.
Okay, so to conclude here this afternoon, we have a legal stipulation to achieve. And if Joel Garland could join me?
Yeah, I'm over here.
Okay.
Should I come up?
Yeah, come on up, Joel. So.
I'm not yet. There's no legal. Hi. I don't know. So I went to Bennington College, but I didn't know Bill there. So those of you who went to Bennington, who I wasn't part of your generation, and you're like, why is he here? How do you know Bill? I'll explain that. But I did know things about Bill. Like I lived in Kilpat and there were no heads on the banisters at Kilpat. They'd all been whacked off with a broadsword. And yeah, I was told it was a broadsword that Bill had built and wielded and knocked all the heads off the banisters at Kilpatrick House. And I remember one day walking behind the Early Childhood Center where the preschoolers were, and I found about a 6-foot-long double-headed battle axe, which I took to security because I didn't think that was a good idea. And they said that it was probably Scully's. So that was what I knew about Bill Scully. I didn't know much about him, but anybody who lived in this community in like 93, 94, there was nowhere to eat at night, right? There was nowhere to get like some eggs. And it was midnight on New Year's Eve, and a friend of mine had a birthday on New Year's Eve. So, Justin, you were there. I think you were there. We were with Mark. So we went to the hospital, which was the only place you could get eggs at midnight on New Year's Eve in Bennington, Vermont, was a hospital. So we go to the hospital. This doesn't sound like it's about Bill Scully. I promise you it's about Bill Scully. So we go to the hospital, and the receptionist at the hospital also worked at the college, and she saw us and recognized Justin and me and Mark, and she said, "Oh, you're here to see Jeremy," which we said yes. And we ran up, and Jeremy was about to go into surgery. He'd been hit by a truck. So we went up, and he was pretty out of it. He had been under sedation. They were taking him in. He'd been hit by a hit-and-run driver in the middle of Vermont. It was pretty serious. He had hip problems for years. It broke his hip, had facial injuries. But he remembered it was Mark's birthday, so he said, "Happy birthday." And he went into surgery. And I found out later what happened immediately and this is where Bill Scully comes in. So this is where, so that's the setup. Time is a little weird in this story, and I'm sorry if it'll make sense at the end, I promise. A couple of years later, we went back up to visit, and I had heard what had happened afterwards, but I don't want to spoil it yet. And we went to Pangea, Justin, me, Mark, some of the same people. Went to Pangea, had a nice dinner, and they knew Bill because they had been at school before I was. And we said, "Bill, come on by, come up," because I hadn't even met him, really, right? I don't think I had. And so Bill comes up to where we were staying after he was done at Pangea, and I said, "Bill, I owe you a thank you. I found out what happened after a friend of mine had been seriously injured, and I don't know you. So I'd never had the opportunity to thank you for what you did." And he didn't let on about anything, so he asked me to tell him the story. And then a couple of years ago when Bill was sick, I was visiting him. We had become good friends, or we'd become friends, you know. There are a lot of people here who knew Bill better than I did. But we had become friends, and I really appreciated him. And he said, "You know, I'm going to fight pretty hard, but if it doesn't come around, I'd like you to come and tell this story that you told me basically on the day that Bill and I became friends." So he came over, visited with Justin and I. After the thing, I said, "Bill, I owe you a thank you. A couple of years ago, we couldn't get any eggs. We went to the hospital, and there was our friend Jeremy, and he was laid out. And then I found out what you did. So when he was hit by the truck, it knocked the mirror off the truck. So Bill took that mirror and his truck, and he drove around all over Bennington, here and there and the other place, till he could find the truck that was missing the mirror. And then he waited, and he found the guy who belonged to the truck. And when that guy got in his truck and took off, Bill followed him and figured out where he was and who he was and contacted the police so they could follow up. And even though he was a suspended driver, he had insurance. Because he had insurance, Jeremy had somebody to go after, a hit-and-run accident, and was able to get health care for his injuries and for the bills. And I said, "You know, Bill, I just, you did a tremendous favor for a friend of mine, and I wanted to thank you." So I thanked him. I told him that story. which I think really amused him, that story. And then we became friends after that. And he helped out with my wedding and was giving me advice, and he's just a lovely person. And he asked me to come here and tell you guys that story. And he said, tell them the legend of Bill Scully. And, so I just think, even on a micro level, Bill Scully was a really decent human being who looked out for human beings in his life. And yeah, is that okay?
That's perfect.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. This was a really special event, and just a reminder that there is the guest book and a place to sign here at the photograph, some water and drinks in the back. And thank you all for being here.